Hey guys, welcome to episode 25 of the Dash Gamer Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Betson. What's going on, Betson?
Not much, man. What's going on with you?
Mate, it's been 6 weeks. Six weeks?
Yeah.
Bloody hell, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it was only like maybe yesterday, a couple of days ago that you were on, but
That's true.
It's gone by fast.
Time isn't a thing. As we've come to learn in 2020, 2021, time is not as we remember.
Yeah, well, it was a year ago that we sat down for an emergency podcast of this podcast, and it was our 5th episode, and we had to sit down and discuss the entirety of PAX being cancelled, E3 being cancelled, South by Southwest. And
yeah, it's crazy to think, eh?
Exactly, and PAX getting confirmed now, and South by, but the thing is, a lot of the American PAX events are still cancelled. They got cancelled this week. PAX West got cancelled, so it was still kind of in the midst of this thing. But it's crazy to think that it's been a year now since we've initially spoken about this. So really, really weird. But guys, if you didn't know, this is the Dash Gamer Podcast. It's our bi-weekly gaming podcast where we sit down and talk about all the latest in the world of video gaming with the boys. Don't forget to follow us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like, leave us a comment. That surely helps us out. I feel like I missed a portion of that intro. But anyway, Betson, have you got any housekeeping?
Well, in the last 6 weeks, mostly just the PlayStation pod, so just for the players.
Yep.
So you've missed about 6 episodes of For the Players. That's bad. So we've covered a bunch of different things in that time. Additionally, our review of Story of Seasons, Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. Friends of Mineral Town was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Pioneers of Olive Town is out now with Padge.
Yeah.
From Operation PlayStation as well as Play 2.
Yep.
He and I sat down and got all farming loved.
Yeah.
And game's fantastic, but I'm sure we'll talk about that more in a little bit.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, other than that, like the wrestling show was going a little bit quiet with Gem moving house.
Right.
And needing to get some new gear.
Yep.
So we were just kind of holding out until WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back, and WrestleMania is looking like something.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see where WrestleMania takes us. But other than that, not a whole lot, man. It's a lot of the usual for me.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, and of course, I don't think I ever really talk about it on here. So for me, as many of you may know, in 2020, I did lose over 30 kilos using a product called the Man Shake. I'm an ambassador for that product. I'm a man ambassador. And one of the things that I have done over the last couple of months is I have joined their weekly podcast, because I don't do enough of them in the small. The reason I can't do this every 6 weeks, Dash, is because of my time schedule. And then part of my
do it every 6 weeks. You mean every 2 weeks now?
So yeah, and then part of my obligation with the Man Shake is to do stuff like that. I'm like, oh shit! Yeah. So I've got to put that in. So every Monday we do a show called Man Talk. It's on their Facebook page. We talk all things weight loss, mental health, well-being, or things of those nature.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to give that a bill, you certainly can. And shameless plug. If you want to support me on my weight loss journey, or just take a look, go use the link bit.ly/FTP Manshake. Go over there, have a look, see if it might be up your alley. Maybe you can kick off your own weight loss journey too.
The link
Shameless.
The link will be available in the description, so make sure you guys check that out. For dashgamer.com, it's pretty much the usual. Operation PlayStation episode 31 is out right now for myself and Padge. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town review, thanks to the kind folk over at Turn Left. Dr. Stone, Season 1, Part 2, anime analysis is live right now, thanks to the kind folk over at Madman. Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods, Part 2, thanks to the kind folk over at Bethesda. Scarlet Nexus, opinion piece. Dash and Holmesy, Take Your Hearts, Episode 20. And an Xbox wireless headset review, thanks to the kind folk over at Xbox Australia. Betson, before we get into the news...
Yes! Speaking of shilling...
I'm glad you're on the show.
Why is that?
We'll do that in a second, but I'm glad you're on the show. Because you cheated.
I cheated?
You cheated, or you were tempted to cheat. on
yeah,
the draft.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a little bit of Operation PlayStation and For the Players talk here.
I'll provide the context. For
Yes,
those
please.
that don't know, over on For the Players, as well as Operation PlayStation, we are doing our yearly video games draft. So last year we did it as our own show, and you guys didn't do it at all, I believe.
No.
Where this year we have continued the trend and we are doing it, and Dash and Padge are joining us. With that comes competition. However, there are some minor differences between how you guys ran it and how our guys ran and how Max and I ran it. So Max and I, we were reliant on the games chosen by our community. They picked the pool of games that we could select from.
Yeah.
I got fucked. Because where I'm at right now, out of the 8 games that we have, I am 2 down.
Yep.
I am short Gotham Knights, which got delayed, and I am short Hogwarts Legacy, which got delayed.
Yeah.
And one of the other riskiness games I have is God of War Ragnarok, which is very unlikely to be coming this year. So, in short, I am down 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Preemptively, right? So, my discussion with Max is because right now I statistically cannot win. Even if all my games get 100, it's actually impossible for me to win. So in terms of any sort of fun competition, we might as well throw in the towel now.
You lose with honor.
It is one of those things. Like I accept that at this point I have lost. However, it's not a very fun challenge. Because, where's the fun for Max? Max can just rub his ball bag on my face for the next 6 months.
Well,
next 8 months.
That's true. What the funny thing is that we've been discussing it on the side, and Padge is probably listening to this now, so we'll just kind of reveal a little bit. It's kind of now become myself, Betson, and Max versus Padge, to be quite honest, because...
A little bit, yeah.
Because we can't have Padge win everything.
Padge is just fucking good at predictions, apparently. And saying that, though, as of right now, I am the winner of the well-played Open Critic Challenge. I'm coming in first with a 2-point difference. I guessed 85.
Yeah.
On
no, there was an amendment. You got a perfect score on one. I did.
I got a perfect score with It Takes Two, and I got 2 off on Monster Hunter Rise. So shout out to me, I guess. Yeah. Last year I came third last.
Yeah.
So woohoo. But yeah, that's cool. But yeah, so in short, when it comes to Max and I, it's just we negotiated terms in order to at least keep the competition going.
Yeah.
So although technically it's cheating-ish a little bit, I've essentially admitted defeat, and now we're heading into a way that it can at least be fun for the rest of the year.
I can actually say that I'm winning our side of the draft.
You are winning your draft.
I got 90 with It Takes Two, so...
So the agreement that the Max and I came with is that I'd be able to get a score by swapping out one of Gotham Knights or Hogwarts Legacy for Destruction All Stars. Yeah. Reason being, it was one of the only games left on the list that were given that had released or is planning to release in the immediate future.
Are you going to be changing your strategy next year though?
Well, the problem is I played a different strategy last year and I won, and then Max played the same strategy I did last year this year. And
what about choosing picks? Are you going to change that up, or are you going to keep?
No, because that's the best part. The best part about is the restriction I find.
Okay.
Because it runs the risk of getting bummed like I am right now.
Yeah.
Which is fun, and so the negotiation was I would take Destruction All Stars, so that gives me at least a 67. So I've got some points. I'm now. Best case scenario, 6 out of 8 games.
Man.
So they're not ideal, but the competition is slightly closer than it was before.
Oh, of course.
However, with that agreement came that
caveat.
I have to have both Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy on my list next year.
You're taking that?
I'll take the deal.
Damn, that is.
You know why?
Why?
Because it's funny, and a big part of everything that I do is if it's fun, then it's worth my time.
You're essentially losing next year as well.
It's very possible. It's very possible. But once again, to me, that's fun. Like beating Max is fun, but it's not the same level of fun. Like this roll, even if I roll over and like intentionally fucking wound myself between now and next year by making this decision, it's still a funny thing for me. And that's a big thing because like What happens if you win? Nothing. There's no prize. There's no cash money. It's just, haha. And I did that last year. And haha, Max, welcome to your first year in Games Press. And I won. He's like, hi, I'm in my second year and you suck. I'm like, yeah, that's true, Max. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I appreciate you beating me.
Guys, make sure you check out For the Players over at the Pop Seed channel. Of course, scan the QR code below Betson. It'll take you right there. And of course, subscribe to Operation PlayStation so you get your PlayStation fix from myself and Padge every 2
When you need double the amount of PlayStation in your life.
Correct, exactly. But other than that, Betson, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into tonight's news. Betson, tonight's news is actually brought to us by Audio-Technica. It's Audio-Technica ATH G1s to be exact.
Not these ones.
Not those ones. These ones here, actually.
I made mine purple. That's
yeah, they're nice purple. Yeah. Looking to up your game, the ATH G1 delivers precision audio technology for all your home console and PC gaming needs. The detachable mic, which is this right here, presents quality communication with ease of access to the volume and mute controls located on the cord, alongside the industry standard gold-plated 3.5mm jack for universal purposes. A lightweight gaming headset for those long late-night sessions that won't weigh you down. Be sure to get your ATH G1s today, available from audiotechnica.com.au. Woo.
Woo.
All right, Betson, let's jump into the first bit of news. The first bit of news comes by way of Jordan Oloman over at IGN, who says Microsoft is cutting the Xbox Live Gold requirements for party chat and free-to-play multiplayer. So this one is a two-part article. Which I kind of believe it ties into what we're about to talk about next anyway. So you will no longer need Xbox Live to access party chat. Looking for groups and free-to-play multiplayer features on Xbox. The news was revealed by Xbox preview program developer Brad Rossetti on Twitter. Quote, multiplayer in free-to-play games looking for groups and party chat on Xbox no longer requires an Xbox Live Gold membership, end quote, Rossetti said. The changes are being debuted to Xbox insiders in the Alpha Skip Ahead and Alpha programs at the moment, quote, ahead of general availability. This means that when the update comes to all Xbox users, players will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold subscription to create a party chat with their friends, look for a multiplayer group, or free-to-play multiplayer games on Xbox. Betson, the reason I say that I believe that this all ties in is because of this one. This is the big piece of news that we have tonight, and I want to start with this. Mm-hmm. Once again, from Jordan Oloman over at IGN, who says Microsoft could reportedly acquire Discord by next month. Microsoft is reportedly in quote exclusive talks to acquire Discord, and the deal could be completed as soon as next month. A report from the Wall Street Journal citing, quote, people familiar with the matter, end quote, has backed up a Bloomberg report from earlier this week, which said that Microsoft was in talks to purchase Discord for $10 billion US or more, and that Xbox boss Phil Spencer was part of the discussions. Quote, Microsoft and Discord are in exclusive talks and could complete a deal next month, assuming the negotiations don't fall apart, end quote, the article says. Actually, yeah, that's pretty much it. Betson, give me your quick thoughts on this.
I love how the one thing that makes me chuckle is one of the big reasons that Xbox Live had it existed in the first place was to provide party chat and multiplayer, and it's very funny that X amount of time later that's turned around. I don't say that in like it's funny in a bad way. Like, it's just funny how times have changed. Where that used to be the product incentive. The incentive was, if you want to party chat, if you want to play online with your friends, you need to have Xbox Live. Yeah, and if anything, it shows that level of customer focused delivery that Xbox are moving towards, and the idea of that anyone can game, and they do seem to be doubling down on that a lot recently. Yep. However, there are some things that are unsure at the moment. Bethesda being one of the big examples. Having them acquire Discord is a massive acquisition if that were to happen. Yeah. And I think it's kind of heading into the space that we're seeing across the board right now. And examples being with like THQ Nordic and the Embracer Group, who are no longer just purchasing gaming studios. They are buying marketing agencies. They're buying publishers. Yeah. Like, they are intentionally expanding their portfolio on what they are buying in order to be a bigger selection of the pie. In the same way that Microsoft recently announced the purchase of Evo. Yeah. Even though it doesn't mean Sony, sorry, my apologies. Sony buying a stake in Evo with the idea not being to create more exclusive fighting games. It's just to have another avenue of income or another slice of that larger gaming pie. And I think Discord is in that same breath. Now, I've never really advocated it loudly because I don't use party chat all that often on my console anyway. You know why?
Why?
Because I use Discord on my computer.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what we used the other night.
That's where we're using Discord right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is what we're using to record our podcast.
Yeah, so so this as well as Young and the Wrestlers, and when Max and I need to do remote recordings for the players, we use Discord. Like Discord has become such a part of my daily life, so much so that I even use it at work as a outside of work hours platform for my clients to communicate with each other to create that peer group. Like Discord is amazing.
It's a seamless communication tool.
Yeah, it is an incredible piece of software for both audio, video, and written communication with one another. And if Microsoft can get a hold of that, that's fantastic. Because additionally, I would hate for them to restrict Discord. I imagine them going, well, we'll license that to you, Sony.
See, that's the issue. And that's the issue that I want to bring up with you. Obviously, us being, hosts of our respective PlayStation podcasts. This is for the players, yeah, exactly. This is an issue right now that concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns you as well, that the fact that if Microsoft take full control of Discord, there's no future for PlayStation to look into purchasing this. I don't know whether or not they were actually interested. There could have been a possibility that Mr. Spencer heard some rumors or something.
Sony couldn't afford the $10 billion.
Yeah,
that's the answer.
That is the answer. That's what that's pretty much where I was going. But the thing is that they're throwing, like you can see, Microsoft are throwing their money around at the moment. Look at the purchase of Bethesda, now $10 billion towards Discord. I don't know how they are going to make their money back on Discord.
See, this is the thing as well, and this is something that I sort of just learned about recently, because you and I have discussed on many occasions about when it comes to the purchasing of Bethesda, like how they're going to make their money back. They can't make their money back through Games Pass. Well, the answer is that's not how they're making the money back, because it's Microsoft. So Microsoft, in the 2 months since the purchase, they've already made in 2 months from the announcement of the purchase, they made that equivalent dollars.
Yeah,
Xbox didn't. Microsoft did.
Yeah.
So in terms, if you look at it as that larger pie, I keep using the pie examples. I must be hungry. But like, if you look at that larger,
pie
division pie. If you look at that division of Microsoft as a company, Xbox is a relatively small piece.
Right.
With primarily income earners is obviously Office and Windows and Azure and Teams and all these other things that Microsoft have access to. So Xbox exclusively is a very minimal section of profit, right? Where Sony, PlayStation is about 40% of their total annual profit per year, approximately. Yep. So they are incredibly reliant on PlayStation to deliver.
Yeah.
And that also does a massive issue in terms of how much revenue, how much money they have to splash around.
Yeah.
Where Microsoft can go, all right, we'll make that back in 3 months. Is this going to drastically increase our overall profits? Sweet, buy it. Yeah. And that's kind of where they're at. So they do have that luxury to thrash about, and that could come in the form of Discord, because 10 billion is a lot. But once again, it's very possible they've intentionally overpaid, very similar to Bethesda, because Discord wasn't for sale.
Yeah.
That's an assumption, of course.
But no, that you're correct.
It's a reasonable assumption.
No, you're correct. And I mentioned that to Padge on this week's Ops as well, or last week's Ops, is that they overcompensated when they purchased Bethesda because Bethesda weren't for sale. Technically, Discord aren't for sale as far as we know, unless they're in private. Like they have they're kind of.
I think we would have heard if they were, because I imagine there would be many other people in that fight.
Well, it's not necessarily a guarantee, because it's also one of those things. Yeah, you're right in that circumstance. We would have heard much more. We would have heard much sooner. I believe that there would have been a lot more noise made about its sale.
Yeah, because someone like Epic would have 100% been in that discussion.
Oh, for sure. And that's but the deal is that we don't believe that they're for sale either, and that's why they're kind of fronting up $10 billion to pay for this service.
Yeah.
My concern now is that will it go down the same way as Skype? because we know how much of a failure Skype was, but I believe
Skype sucks arsehole, yeah.
Well, Skype sucked arsehole when it was bought out by Microsoft. It was already as bad as it was, and when Microsoft bought it out, it just got worse. But when Discord came around, obviously, it kind of alleviated some of that those stresses people had about Skype, and were able to utilize Discord instead. Now, for the fact that Microsoft are trying to acquire Discord, and they're probably going to dump Skype, it's like,
well, the fact that they have Teams is another reason they're going to push Skype anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, Skype is an obsolete platform. It was one of the first video conferencing platforms. So, shout out to them. Yep. But as with the likes of Zoom and Discord,
it's dead.
It's dead.
Yeah.
And Zoom, Discord, and Teams. You know what I mean? So, like, I think I don't see them, acquiring Discord to bury it or something, because I think they understand the importance that Discord has within a greater community, not just the gaming community, but I think a larger subsect of younger demographic, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to use Teams. Are you? No. And like, I use Zoom for work, but once again, these platforms are designed for business and, adults, right?
Yep.
Quote unquote adults, older generation.
It can be utilized for business and adults.
Yes, exactly. Where Discord does have a much younger image.
Yep.
So for that reason alone, it's worth acquiring, because A, that's not going to go anywhere, and there's already an inbuilt audience.
Do you think they're going to push that image on people though once they acquire it? Do you think it's going to become like, hey, you can also use Discord for business?
I don't think so. I don't think the infrastructure is there unless they make Discord for business. We're doing
it for business right now.
You probably have it. Yeah, it's true, but probably have it something similar to what's it called? There's another program that you can use. It has like the same.
Telegram?
No.
I know.
A lot of businesses use it. Starts with S, I think.
I can't remember, but I think I know which one you're talking about. But
yeah, there's a piece of software that you can use as Teams to be like have the same level.
Slack.
Thank you. Yes, like Slack. Where I think most businesses would use Slack when they come to this. So it's possible that they could go that way, but I think they are wanting to keep it as that general use. Like there was a time when Skype was general use, and then it transitioned very quickly to business.
Yeah.
And I imagine they want to. I would like to keep them separate if it was me.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to handle $10, let alone 10 billion. So, don't come to me for help. But I think the software itself and how ubiquitous it is across the gaming culture. I would like to see them not go some exclusive route with it and potentially license it out. So, in the same way that like Sony tried to support Ustream when the PS4 came out, but who the fuck uses Ustream anymore?
No,
yeah, it's Twitch. So they licensed Twitch to have a plug-in, and I think they would likely do the same. I think we are heading into that future where those barriers between Microsoft and Sony are breaking in some ways, and the fact that Sony uses Azure for cloud storage and stuff like that, they're already open to work with each other in other business capabilities.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if they were comfortable in making some sort of agreement to share Discord if it were to go that way.
Betson, the next one comes by way of Sammy Barker over at Push Square, who says Sony locks the door on legacy web-based PS Store. Another avenue to PS3, PSP, and PS Vita content closed. He goes on, Sony may have officially relaunched its web-based PlayStation Store last year, but savvy users were still able to access the old one through a legacy hyperlink. Amid rumours that the company is about to outright close its PS3, PS Vita, and PSP storefronts, the platform holder has now locked up its classic web store. Many preferred the old web-based PS Store for its interface, and also the fact that it included the aforementioned consoles. While the new online storefront does not feature a more modern design, it's extremely slow and includes PS5 and PS4 software. The fact that so many are lamenting the closure of the classic version illustrates just how bad the new page is. Yeah, so this is a real concern that's happening right now with continuous closures. But there was an update to this, and this article, once again from Sammy Barker, clarifies. Sony confirms PS3, PS Vita, PSP store closures downloads will still be retained. So Sony has officially confirmed the closure of its legacy stores, As previously reported, PS3 and PSP will be closed 2nd of July, while the Vita will shut down on the 27th of August. While you'll still be able to download all your previous software and video purchases, including PS Plus titles, as long as you remain a member, you won't be able to buy any new games from the PS Store on those platforms once they have been retired. Betson, this is sad for Vita users. This is sad for PS3, the ongoing PS3 users that continue to use the PlayStation 3, which is, it's a small market, but it's there. The PSP, I couldn't care less, to be completely honest, but it's there. I don't know why. I said to Padge last week that it was more of a budget thing than anything. I'm guessing that this was just more expenditure for Sony to kind of say, okay, we're going to cut back on this so that we can spend on PlayStation 5 now and that infrastructure instead. So what are your thoughts?
I think the budgetary thing is part of it. Yeah. However, I'm coming at it from a different angle. So, okay. Keep in mind, I discussed this for the players this week.
Yep.
For me, I think it comes down to just the back end of PlayStation and the PSN. So one thing that we know is that the PSN, especially for the PS3, is trash. It's been trash for the longest time. Like, you got to remember when PS3 first launched. So when the PSN first launched, It wasn't an app; it was an in-browser thing.
Yep.
Right? And then it became an app. So we know the back-end infrastructure is garbage.
Yeah.
And they have essentially been Band-Aid fixing and upgrading by building on the same dodgy framework for the longest window of time.
Yeah.
And we know, and also with that, so semi-recently we were given the capability to change our username. And one of the reasons that took so long to do so was because of how shoddily the back-end was put together.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that they are heading in a direction where they are either A, have, or B, wanting to rebuild the back end of the PSN.
Yeah.
And they cannot do that when the old foundation is there, which is what's built on the PS3 and the Vita, because they are part of the same storefront.
Yeah.
So as they transition to this next generation, because that back end is 15 years old, they need to tear it down and they want to rebuild it, and they cannot do that if it's still around.
Yeah.
That's more of a logistics potential for me. I understand that it sucks for Vita developers specifically. Like, we know, as an example, like the team at Lilimo, like they've actually cancelled their port for Habroxia 2.
Yep.
Not Habroxia 2, whatever their next game is that they're currently working on.
Yep.
Because there's no chance it's releasing before this date.
Yeah.
And they're not the only ones.
Here's a tweet. So for those who don't know, Lilimo Games is co-owned by Colin Moriarty of Last Stand Media. And the tweet goes, with today's news of the Vita store closing, we sadly have had to cancel the Vita version of our next game. The store will be closed before our next game is ready. So it seems that Habroxia 2 will be our final Vita release.
Yeah. And it is one of those things that it was going to happen at some point, and I don't understand why everyone's mad, because it was going to happen, and it would happen, and PlayStation and Sony's reluctance to focus on old games and legacy games. Why are we surprised? Is the honest answer.
Yeah.
When you have, CEO Jim Ryan essentially saying "fuck old games," it makes it very difficult for them to show support in terms of just regular backwards compatibility, let alone this. But yeah, how long can they support something for? We all must have some sort of reasonable expectation.
Yeah, I agree with you, and this is the thing. Like, Nintendo just shut down the Wii store. I think it was last year. I believe it was last year. That
it
they
was
shut
last
it.
year.
And it's like they're not going to retain. They're not going to keep managing and maintaining a storefront, a digital storefront that. Like a small market, a small margin of their market are still
I would
using.
presume that tens of people buy from that store on a daily.
Exactly. And did buy on a daily. Now, are you talking about the PlayStation 3 store?
PlayStation 3 store right now.
Right, yeah. There's
nobody. The Vita, it's possible because I know people buy Vitas for the first time every day.
Yeah.
But it is staggeringly less.
That's what I was going to ask you. You think it's a bit overzealous of Sony to be shutting down the Vita store?
No. because they're connected. If my theory is correct and it's about rebuilding that back end, that server, that infrastructure, they need to cut it both.
But
they
do you
are
think they can bring it
intrinsically
back?
connected. I'm sure they could. They could at some point
But what would be the use?
Exactly.
I can understand you.
Look, Sony stopped supporting the Vita about 25 minutes after it launched, and they've failed to support it since. Like that to them, that handheld has been dead for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So why are people once again surprised? If you are surprised, go and buy some games you have now. Pick up your Persona 4 Golds. Pick up your Uncharted, Golden Abyss. Pick up, I don't know what other fucking good games are on there, like Tearaway and shit like that. Go and do it. Because you're going to want to now. Be careful about buying a Vita right now because they're going to fucking suddenly skyrocket in price.
Yeah, definitely.
But then it'll plunge again when you can't buy any new games. So at least go to the web store, buy what you can. Buy your PS1 classics because they're about to get lost too.
Yep. This is sad. This is really sad. But the point that you bring up the infrastructure, I can understand where you're coming from, but the PlayStation 4 still utilizes that infrastructure as well.
Very much so, but they have demonstrated alterations to it with something as simple as changing of your names, right? Like that's shown that that they have a larger thing in mind. Now, once again, if they can circumvent it in one way, fantastic. Maybe one day they'll rebuild the whole thing, or potentially they have already rebuilt it for the PS5, and now it's currently talking to there is a clear division, and it's talking to the old one, and then one day when that goes, they flick a switch and it starts talking to the new one. Yeah. It's very, very possible. I don't know how any of this works. Same reason I don't develop games. I don't know how to handle $10 billion. I don't know how to handle backend. I'm just some random fuck on the internet who says things. But to me, that makes logical sense.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. The next one comes by way of Shannon over at Press Start, who says, Peter Dutton suggested that Grand Theft Auto could be partly to blame for men's toxic behavior. I won't go through the whole article, but on Media Watch, there was a clip put out. It basically says, this is a quote from Peter Dutton, if you're playing Grand Theft Auto as a 13-year-old boy in that game, not just, drive cars recklessly, you can go for a lap dance, you can go and shoot police.
But you know what you can't do in that game, but you can do in real life, apparently? Fucking rape your staffers as a Liberal MP.
Oh, Jesus.
So, who's fucking more in the wrong?
Well, yeah. This is the...
they have, the Liberal Party, the LNP
I hate to get
government
political,
right now,
but this...
They have no place discussing shit like this.
No.
They have shown nothing but complete disrespect for people, not just women currently, fucking in general. They are garbage people. Right now, they are dealing with multiple allegations of sexual assault, rape, and someone just jerking off on a piece of furniture for some reason. Which, might I add, our Prime Minister seems more concerned about that.
Yeah.
That someone jerked off on a desk rather than that someone got physically and sexually assaulted. This potato-headed looking fuck can shut his face.
Yeah.
He can fuck right off, you character from Doctor Who looking prick.
I've not ever heard of it. Betson pretty much summarized it, so there you
go.
No,
they have no grounds for it. It's cool.
No.
And I want to clarify something. If a child's 13, they shouldn't be playing it. You know why? Because the rating system that your government has in place.
Yeah. Old Betson's
you fucking moron.
It's baffling. It's confounding that they continue to go back on these things.
We had this discussion in 2004.
Why?
It's 2021.
Why are video games always put to blame? And this is not something that should be to blame. Your government. These are people within the government right now that are at fault. So why the fuck are video games now being? Oh yeah, let's talk about video games.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's the LNP. The one thing that they're really good at is look. Obviously, you can tell I'm not a fucking LNP voter.
No, neither am I.
Is that they love to go in the whole whataboutism, right?
Yeah.
Because for them, there are when they know they are losing, and they're losing the argument, they either double down or they go, well, we're not that bad. You should see what the Labour MPs are doing. Like,
they're playing Grand Theft Auto. They're kids
fucking
play
Scott Morrison just referred to a News Corp journalist as a rapist the other day.
Yeah.
He made an accusation.
Oh my
because
God.
the example was, News Corp can't say much. Hey. And they're like, what?
What are you talking about?
He's like, and then he's like, yeah, I made that up.
Yeah.
Like,
and what was it yesterday? Oh, the Prime Minister for Women.
And like right now, that the idea is like, well, that's not that bad. You should see what your kids are playing. Haha, it's you. We're not the problem. You're the problem. That's what they're doing. They're shifting that blame when the answer is no. Well, yes, that is a problem that the kids are playing that game, but that's the parents' choice.
Yeah.
You are actively being garbage. Not you specifically, Peter Dutton. You're garbage in many other ways. As far as I know, you've not sexually assaulted anyone that everyone knows about yet.
But you're just garbage, right? Yeah.
You are just trash.
Yeah.
Fuck off, you weird-looking cunt.
Talking about classifications and ratings and restrictions, this one comes by way of Shannon over at Press Start. Here's exactly why Disco Elysium was refused classification in Australia. He goes on, last week it was revealed that Disco Elysium, the final cut, was refused classification in Australia, meaning that the console versions of the game wouldn't be able to go on sale next week. Basically, we knew that the game violated Clause 1A, which is the game, quote, depict, express, or otherwise deal with the matter of sex, drug misuse, or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence, or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, end quote. But Kotaku has found out more information about what took the game over the line and to be refused a classification in the Classification Board report. As noted by Kotaku, the reports talk about Twitch integration first. Quote, Disco Elysium contains online interactivity in the form of integration with the streaming platform Twitch, which allows stream viewers to vote on what dialogue options the player should choose. The game also contains in-game purchases in the form of the purchase of objects, end quote. It's unclear what role this played in getting the game refused classification. It then goes on to specify a few examples of how the game violates the 1A clause, which is directly related to drug use in this instance. You can find more examples over at Kotaku. Okay, look, we just discussed Grand Theft Auto, and that's got an R18 classification here in Australia.
Sure yep.
Everything that I just mentioned there is in Grand Theft Auto. The classification board, once again, is it's astonishingly flawed. They do not know, like when they are reviewing a product, it's almost like, and you guys discussed this on For the Players, and I brought this up in your chat. I said, gaming is still a kid's toy in the classification board's eyes, and you know, in a lot of these legislators' eyes that turn around and go, okay, no, we can't allow that in the country. It's a form of entertainment, just like you would pass a film. It's a form of entertainment, just like you would pass music. All these things are the same as video games. Video games are no longer a child's toy. This is an entertainment business. It is the biggest. It is the largest entertainment business in the world, a multi-billion-dollar industry on the planet, the biggest entertainment industry on the planet right now. Above Hollywood, above music, everything. It is dominating. But the fact is, no, we're gonna protect the kids, because if they get their hands, you know whose problem it is that the kids get their hands on these things? The parents. If the parents are purchasing these games for their kids, there's a problem. That is the underlying factor. And I've seen it, being somebody who worked in a video games department. I always had a kid who would ask their mum, can you buy me Grand Theft Auto 5? And the mum would come up to me, can my child play Grand Theft Auto 5? What? You fucking moron or what? It says R18 for nothing, does it? That's the issue. That's the underlying issue right now. And I can understand why the government is hesitant to always allow R18 games in, but the classification board is showing how dated they are and how stupid they can really be. It's a bunch of old men in suits looking at these things and saying, no, don't let it in the country.
Look, so I agree with you. I think the overall narrative around games still being children's toys, quote unquote, is certainly around.
Yep.
However, when it comes to this circumstance specifically, like the the guidelines around what would make like they have no issue giving games R18.
No.
Like that's the thing. That's the whole reason the R18 exists. Like I remember being one of very big advocate before it was brought into place. So the classification board have no issue releasing R18 rated games. There's a stack of them. Fucking Doom VR came out this week. It's R18. So like they have no issue doing so.
Right.
However, when they did establish the R18 rating, they gave very specific and clear guidelines of these are the reasons if a game breaches any of the following, it will be refused classification.
Yeah.
And one of them being the positive influence of the taking of illicit substances resulting in positive feedback or positive behavior, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea if you do drugs, good things happen. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And that's why this game has been refused classification. Is that correct? No. But once again, those guidelines are very, very clear. Yeah. So it's in the same way that when Fallout 3 was released here a while ago, it was refused classification. So they went in and they renamed the product to MedX and they got let back in.
Yeah.
And the same thing could happen here as well. Disco Elysium could call it pineapple juice if they wanted to, and then it would suddenly get let back in.
Yeah.
And because it's called a speedball, which is an actual drug use term, because it is an actual drug, like that is the hurdle here.
Yeah.
Now, am I condoning their decision? Well, a little bit, because their guidelines are very, very clearly stating what it is. However, I do strongly agree that these rules need to be revisited every handful of years.
Yeah.
As especially when it comes to maybe not movies, but because games are such an ever-changing medium, these guidelines need to be reviewed and restricted. Because when they mention anything that is morally objectionable, morals flux, morals change over time. That is ambiguous. Yeah. So that means that anyone that happens to be classifying that game, it's based on their moral belief. It is not black and white. So when it comes to the drug use, that's black and white. Fucking A, that's cool. If it does this, then you get why. Where when moral ambiguity or abhorrent, like those things are subjective.
Yeah, that's right. And it's all subjective.
Yeah, and with those subjective decisions comes age. Like if you are age, your moral stance, your subjective stance is very different, right? Your ethical stance, is very different.
Yeah.
Where how you and I would see a game is very different to how an older individual compared to a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some shit that kids fucking like and watch these days. I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Animes is an example. However, like it's that thing. Like these classification are there for a reason. They are of value. They are of importance in order to provide and ensure that not every game gets through, because there are games. I'm sorry, Peter Dutton. I'm sure your party would like to hear this because apparently they're big fans. There are rape games out there. These guidelines are designed to prevent things like that from coming in, which are unquestionably not necessary. Yeah. Right? And it's the same reason that we don't get cinematic releases of snuff films and shit, right?
Right.
Because it is illegal and it's not on. No. Right? Period.
Yeah.
Same goes for this. Like these guidelines are in place. So if anyone even tried to release a game like that, you go, no. Yeah, because there is that line. That line is forever moving, but I don't see it going that far into that direction. And if we drop the classification board in its full capacity, then that's when that stuff comes in, and that is a larger issue. However, in this, minor tweaks would open it up. Like we're not like swimming in refused classification games. Yeah, like it's very select few, and they normally are provided very clear reasons. Yeah, Hotline Miami 2, sexualized violence. Yeah, I kind of agree with that not being a good thing. Huh. Boom, like there are reasons that these things exist. Not being all like conservative about it, but it's like they're there. I get them. Dash, as someone that worked within a games retailer, you understand the importance of classification. Yeah. And I'm in the same boat. As an adult gamer, I should be allowed to play what I want to play. Yeah. However, because we live in this greater society, there are some things that come with that. Yeah. And that means some things might not get here. Exactly. However, that discussion can be had.
Yeah, of course. And but there's a problem with that in saying that. And here's a perfect example. And I bring back Mortal Kombat 9 as the perfect example when it was when it was banned in Australia back in 2011. And the way I acquired it then was I found somebody on Gumtree who had imported the title.
I own Manhunt. I own the game that was banned.
Yeah.
I own Manhunt 2, a game that never saw release yet because it was a few classification. There are ways to buy them.
Right, and there will be ways to purchase Disco Elysium, the final cut.
Big time. I'm going to buy it through the US PSN
US
store.
digital store.
Yeah.
Even if they try, there are going to be ways to purchase the game.
But there are always ways to, if someone's like, oh, rape games, there are ways to get them if you want them.
Yeah, but
same idea. Like that same argument can go the other way.
With Disco Elysium, they're obviously
anything banned can be obtained.
They're trying to restrict ease of access is essentially what's happening. And I can understand that, but it's also... If you got half a brain cell, you can basically purchase it through digital storefronts these days, and you got it within 2 seconds. So I don't know. Sometimes I just really feel like they do it just to kind of impose their will, and it's just like, okay, cool, you got power, you got stroke, good on you. Can you not?
See, I would disagree because I think the games that are being banned using disc, they don't fucking understand Disco Elysium.
No,
they don't understand that it's this highly regarded CRPG, right? They wouldn't have put that much thought into it when they canned it. So they're like, we're gonna can this game to say fuck them.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's that level of tinfoil hat conspiracy. I'm not saying it's not possible, but our government can't fucking do anything, and the idea that they have any sort of ability to create some sort of conspiracy is bizarre.
Like what you're hearing today? Be sure to follow all Dash Gamer podcasts on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by simply typing dashgamer.com into the search bar of your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to check out our gaming, anime, and pop culture related news on dashgamer.com. Now, back to the show.
The next one comes by way of Shannon over at Press Start, who says Super Mario 3D All-Stars is leaving stores in 1 week.
1 day.
1 day, tomorrow. Nintendo has confirmed that it will end Super Mario's 35th anniversary, effectively ending the life of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, Super Mario Bros. 35, as well as all the related merchandise that the company released to celebrate the birthday. It was thought that the company could potentially change its mind, but in a tweet it has confirmed that Super Mario 3D All-Stars Physical Edition will stop production as of March 31st and will be delisted from the Nintendo Switch eShop. In an update to this article, Shannon warns everybody that this is your final warning. Be sure to pick up your copies of these games, including the game and watch Super Mario Bros. For $79 available right now on Amazon. Betson, this has become Nintendo's trademark. Let's limit physical games. Let's limit digital games. Let's remove all these titles that people want to essentially create a market in terms of create a what's the word that I'm looking for?
Artificial scarcity.
Artificial rising. Yeah, that's right. So this is an issue that Nintendo are creating for gamers right now, and I take offense to it essentially because I like the fact that I had to purchase Super Mario 3D All-Stars to know that, all right, cool, I have the game, it's in my library now. Will I play it now? No, probably not, but I can play it when I want because I have it. That in itself is also pushing people to purchase games now. Like, it's like saying, buy it now, because you won't be able to buy it later. Everybody was already confused by the fact that Super Mario Bros. 35 was a limited time online event that could have easily been an ongoing success for Nintendo. I don't understand them shutting down something that's been critically acclaimed and, you know, had a resounding ovation from their fan base. I really don't understand what the gist is there.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's that weird line because yes, Nintendo have for decades since their inception, or at least their early involvement in the video game space, is they have focused on artificial scarcity.
Yeah,
it's one of their biggest tactics. It's the same tactic that they used around the Wii. And the idea is if people can't have it, they want it. And that's what we're dealing with right now. Because even myself, I said to my wife earlier, I'm like, should we buy this? Because I know you grew up with Mario 64, and I'm sure James might want to play it at some point. That's my son.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to buy it. And what they're essentially doing is they're creating that demand. Like, people may not, I wouldn't have bought it for another couple of years because, like, well, when it's available, I'm like, oh, my son is old enough to understand that I'll buy it. Yeah. So they're essentially forcing your hand. And if you want it, you buy it. So they're essentially asking all that money now, right? And, like, it's understand that, like, they're still getting the same amount of money they would have got, or rather over a long window of time, just in a smaller window of time. Like, if you were going to buy it, you're going to buy it. But most, that whole consumer psychology is that you want it because you can't get it.
Yeah.
I think it's dumb.
I think it's dirty.
I think it's dirty.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this arbitrary day for no reason is kind of bullshit. But it is not new. It is Nintendo. It's Nintendo's history.
It's their MO.
It's their MO. And, it's this weird thing because it's killing... Because I'm hearing a lot of sort of conjecture on the internet right now around... 31st of March being the day that Mario dies. And because a lot of legacies going like that.
Yeah.
So it's super weird. Like, I don't understand Mario, literally their icon, like their mascot. They're actively wanting to remove his legacy on the platform. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it.
Yeah. And
it's gonna work though, because I'm gonna have to buy it tomorrow.
Well, the thing is, right? Well, here's the thing too: is stock will still be in stores. It'll sit on the shelves for a little while before it runs out. But once it's gone, it's gone. Super Mario 35 was a great piece of software, especially during the pandemic when it came around, when people were locked in their houses, and that game there during lockdown really, really helped. In terms of just pure entertainment, sheer value for entertainment. It was a free download. It was, a community experience for people to enjoy. If Nintendo really wanted to, they could market that and sell it along with on their online. They could turn around and go, online could be $35 a year, but you also get Super Mario 35 with it. That there is value. That there is great value. Right now it's $25 a year, which is really good value. But you don't really get much except for the old school titles. And to me, that's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. But anybody with a freaking PC and an emulator can do that. So, all right, fair enough. Good on you, Nintendo. You're re-releasing games on the Switch that people have played 1,000 times. But the Super Mario 35, that's something different. That would have been cool to have as an add-on that's guaranteed every time you renew your membership. That's awesome. But they're removing it. And it just... I'm confused every time they pull this kind of shit. So, I don't know. Moving on, the next one comes by way, once again, it's about Nintendo, but it's once again from Shannon over at Press Start, who says, the new Nintendo Switch will apparently use NVIDIA DLSS for 4K graphics. I won't go too far into it, but basically the specs, it will release, so basically the news is it will release later this year, a 7-inch 720p LED screen, DLSS equipped, better CPU, more memory, with a lot of games, and they're saying it's going to cost $399.99 USD at launch. I discussed this with the rumors surrounding this with Brendan on the last episode of the Dash Game podcast, and it kind of falls in the same vein of what's happening here with the Mario thing, how they kind of taking away these games. But the way I kind of equate it to that is they are now essentially saying, oh, you've owned a Nintendo Switch since launch. That's great. You still have the launch version of it. But when we bring out the deluxe version of it, the Super Nintendo Switch, as fans are calling it, you won't be able to purchase some titles that will be available for this unit.
Once again, this is Nintendo's MO. It's the same goes for the all-new Nintendo 3DS. Where the only game that could... The Hyrule Warriors was the big selling point.
Yeah.
But, who fucking cares? Like, you can still play it. Still play as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and like, saying that though, the PS4 Pro, the Xbox, Scorpio...
But they didn't have exclusives.
They didn't, but like there was the potential that they would. So like Nintendo have done the mid-gen refreshers for the longest window of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised the idea of this super Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch Pro, whatever the fucking name that the Twitter sphere want to talk about. Yeah, like until I see hard information about it, I will be like, okay.
I'm in doubt too. That'll.
I'm 100%. I believe it's in development, or at least in.
No. I'm in doubt that it'll happen this year.
Yeah, I don't think we happen this year either.
No.
Like, I do certainly think there's been a lot of not R&R. What's it called? R&D.
R&D. Yeah.
Around it, because we saw very quickly, very early on,
QA,
that the Switch is struggling.
Oh yeah.
We like not in terms of sales.
No.
It's fucking kicking
capabilities,
bum.
yeah.
But in capabilities, it is hitting its top end point. The fact that the Pokemon Arceus game had, some Pokemons running at like fucking 10 frames a second, and the fact that there is just distance of nothing because the draw distance is so trash. Like, the Switch has hit its point.
This is the game that I would say is hitting the wall on the Switch at the moment, is really pushing the envelope. I thought that Breath of the Wild was going to be the game that was going to be the be-all, end-all in terms of showcasing the Switch's capabilities. And then we had Odyssey, which did really well in terms of, expanding on that. But this one here has marginally gone above and beyond what I expected in terms of graphical presentation, design, or everything else. I currently have a freelancer writing the review up for this one. But I've been playing a little bit of it, and I have to say that this is probably the best game right now on Nintendo Switch in terms of gameplay, performance, graphics, everything else. However, its downfall, it only runs at 30 frames per second. Why? Because that's all the Switch can do. It can't get
with a likely dynamic resolution.
Right. It runs at it runs 1080p docked. But the reason I say, allegedly, exactly. The reason I say that it can only do 30 frames per second, and I'm specifically talking about this title because there are other titles that can run 60 frames. But when I'm talking about Monster Hunter Rise at the moment, this is the game that I'm holding right now, by the way. The reason that it runs at 30 frames is because of the amount of detail that's actually on screen at one time. So it doesn't. I have not suffered. It hasn't suffered from chug, but there are games that are on the Switch that have
a game that came out last week. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Old Leaf Town.
And that's exactly what I was going to bring up.
If you start filling up your farm a little bit like you're supposed to, the game shits itself.
Yeah.
And when the Switch launched, it was underpowered.
Yeah.
And it was like, this has got to need more. And we're seeing that now. When the fact that The Witcher has to run at like a 160p to maintain a consistent frame rate. That's exaggeration, of course. That is a concern for the future. And we can't expect more games, even third-party games. Like, we'll hit that wall when third-party games won't come to it anymore.
Yeah.
Because they just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think we're almost there. So that's why it would make sense to release something this year or at least early next year. March turned out to be an awesome time to release the Switch. It wouldn't surprise me if they release in the front end of next year, if they do plan on sometime this year.
Yeah.
And they'll still kick it out of the park. Nintendo, and just like me being the Sony dork that I am, Nintendo dorks are worse, and they will buy everything.
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that because it's a good segue to talk more about PlayStation. This one comes by way of Sammy Barker.
It's almost like I have the same doc as you.
Push Square, who says PS5 stock could be affected by a ship stuck in Suez Canal. I think that's how you say it, or Suez Canal. If you haven't been following the news this week, and with how depressing it's been of late, we wouldn't blame you. Then you may not know that a ship as long as the Empire State Building has got stuck in the Suez Canal in Egypt. This is an important trade route from Asia to Europe and has caused a backlog of boats, which threatens to further disrupt an already fragile supply chain. Sony has been battling with semiconductor shortages caused by the coronavirus pandemic for months now, and while it's managed to more or less match PlayStation 4's hardware shipments, demand for PlayStation 5 has far exceeded supply. While semiconductors are generally transported through air and thus are unlikely to be affected by the scenes unfolding in Suez Canal, Business Insider reports that the events are almost certain to increase product shipping times. This is a concern because, once again, these conductors are now stuck somewhere in Egypt and aren't making it to manufacturers. So, more delays for PlayStation 5.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's kind of...
But also delays to fucking everything. Like, it's one of those weird things of, having this ship be stuck is like, well, everything's fucked.
Yeah, pretty much. More
so if it was not a pandemic, it's
more that COVID hasn't shat the bed with everything else. It's now
it's boats getting stuck sideways in a fucking river. Stoked.
More from Push Square, Betson. Now this one comes by way of Robert Ramsey over at Push Square. And I had to include this one because obviously being the So a fanboy that I am, Metacritic ranks Sega as the best publisher of 2020. Sony in top 5. Metacritic has released its annual publisher rankings, and the results are actually quite surprising. Are they though?
No.
These rankings take a number of factors into account in order to feed a point system that's based on things like average Metascore and whether the publisher has launched any quote great end quote at least 90 Metascore titles over the course of the year. 90 like It Takes Two. Interestingly enough, it's Sega that set the bar for 2020 with an average Metascore of 81.6. The Japanese.
How many titles?
How many titles? 10. Oh, sorry, no, not
okay.
10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
No, that makes sense.
Not bad. So yeah, that's awesome to hear because they had Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was
I didn't even think of Yakuza.
Which was a smash hit when it launched on the Xbox Series X last November, and of course it got even more acclaim when it launched on PlayStation 5. 13 Sentinels, Argus Rim, I believe it's called, was massive as well. It was one of those titles that actually surprised myself. When it landed in my lap, it was like, "Hey, are you interested in reviewing this?" I'm like, "What is it?" And they were like, "Check it out," and I did, and it was fantastic game. And then of course Persona 5 Royal, given.
When I read that headline, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's Persona."
So yeah,
but I didn't. I did underestimate Sega. I say that because I was like, "Oh yeah, that's solely because of Persona." But no, there's 8 other games that were as of that high standard. Like, even Sony as a first party studio was only releasing like 2 or 3 games of exclusives last year. They didn't even achieve that level of intense overall score. Obviously having Persona, what's Roll sitting at now? Like 97?
97, I think it is. Yeah. Oh.
Something absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. It'd be up there. It'd definitely be up there. I'll quickly 95.
95 because that's obviously the Persona 5 the first edition is sitting at a good like 92, and they're like, "Whoa, this is just the same game but with better shit." It's like, all right, well, 95.
95, here you go.
Yeah, as I said, I give Persona shit all the time. Yeah. I give Dash shit all the time. But I will admit that Persona is by far one of the greatest JRPGs ever.
Oh yeah.
And even though I shit on it all the time, mostly for my own entertainment against you, it is one of the most enjoyable games I've ever played.
Yeah,
like it is very, very good.
Yeah, so
and is deserving of this. And I think Sega and Atlas deserve the rub here.
Oh yeah, the accolade is great. I think if anything, it really kind of puts it into perspective how underrated or underappreciated, I should say, some the category, the genre JRPG can be at times.
Fucking calm down, all right?
Hold on.
I was just jerking Persona. I didn't want to jerk other things.
No. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of trash. There is a lot of trash and shovelware in that category. But what I'm talking about is when it's right, and it hits the mark. And I'm talking Persona here.
And like even Yakuza as well. Yeah. Like I underestimated like how popular and good Yakuza is as well.
Yeah. So It's great to see that they're seeing all these accolades now come in. They definitely deserve it. Betson, this is a big one. The next one comes by way of Robert Ramsey over at Push Square, who says, Kojima Productions' next game announcement coming quite soon, he says. Legendary Kojima Productions artist Yoji Shinkawa may have just dropped a hint on when we can expect a new game announcement from the studio. In an interview with YouTube channel AI Hub, as reported by VGC, Shinkawa is asked about the developer's next project. He replies, quote, well, yeah, I'm doing something for sure, and I could tell you probably that we can announce it quite soon. Then Ramsey goes on and says, of course, quote, quite soon could mean anything, but it's common knowledge that Kojima Production has been bolstering its workforce for quite some time following the release of Death Stranding in 2019. So, Padge, we have our little group on Facebook at the moment that kind of, we talk about our shows and production.
Right, we have a little chat. We kind of just shit on each other all day, and
yeah,
then occasionally we send gaming related things.
Now we've got Max in the group, which is even better. So this one is a tweet from the composer, I believe, the lead composer of Kojima Productions. He tweeted out just before, important news tomorrow. And the first reply is Jeff Keighley. So obviously there could be something there. But he also replied to that tweet with fucking lol. So that it really could mean anything. We don't know, but usually when things like this go down and Jeff's on it like white on rice, it's basically this. It's like, okay, there is something there.
Yeah, so I was having a look at the tweet there, so there's anything new. But so we discussed this in For the Players this week with our ever so fucking catchy Death Stranding 2 title and thumb. Because it could be. It's very lucky. I say that, what could Kojima be working on? And it's possible that it is some sort of work on Death Stranding. We saw that Death Stranding was able to be turned around in such a quick window of time. And there was discussion from Kojima, whether it be conjecture, is that he's wanting to make the Strand genre.
Yeah. Strange genre.
It is strange. But because his idea was that the Death Stranding is the Strand game, and then he has bigger ideas for that as a format, and so it's very possible we could see an extension of that. Like maybe, so Max suggested that maybe we'll see. Suggested that maybe we'll see the Death Stranding from a different location in the world. I disagree because with Kojima's real fixation on American culture specifically. It's one of those things. I would love to know what it could be.
Do you think it's Death Stranding 2?
No, ish. I think it could be. I obviously one thing we bullshitted about as well was the idea of if it is Silent Hills. Ooh. I don't think it is. I would like it to be.
Can you imagine if Sony did buy out the IP though,
or license it at least?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they could license it, but there's no. Konami would still have to be involved, and there's no way.
But Konami have demonstrated very little care for all their gaming IP because Konami as a brand is way bigger than games in Japan.
Yeah, but they don't want nothing to do with Kojima.
Exactly.
So
that would be amazing. But there has been enough smoke to indicate that a new Silent Hill game is happening somewhere.
It'd be Konami doing it, but yeah.
But I'm confident that it's not Kojima in any capacity.
Yeah.
So what is this going to be? Who knows? We know he wanted to do some sort of horror game. He had talks with Google Stadia or something.
Yeah.
There's also speculation that it could be an Xbox exclusive, which it could be. However,
the statue in the background.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the case, personally.
Okay. So there is the speculation. Padge brought this up, and this is what kind of fuels this thought.
Because they had the Luden statue, didn't
the Luden statue was sitting in Phil Spencer's office. Now,
it's a good statue though, so I would buy it.
Oh yeah,
I'd buy it.
It's really cool, but I think it's a quick judgment. However, I still think it's a quick judgment for us to even turn around and say, well, I don't think it's going to Xbox.
Well, it's very, very possible. The deal with PlayStation for Death Stranding was a second-party deal. Like, they are not a first-party owned studio. Or then again, maybe this is the big announcement that they've been fucking purchased. Like, you know, they're like, hey, to go alongside this new game, we've confirmed that we are part of PlayStation now. Very unlikely.
Xbox?
Or Xbox. Man, that'd be ballsy. Oh my god.
imagine?
Even I would be a little bit mad at that.
Well,
Actually, I'd be
that's
pretty
the
mad
thing.
at that.
I'm going to ask you this now because, like, before we head on to the next one, this is a little bit of a question to you. Do you think that we could ever see a future where Xbox Game Pass becomes available on PlayStation?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
You think it's possible?
I 100% think so. But I don't think it would be a I guess bastardized version of Games Pass, in that it would only have the
certain titles.
At least initially, it would have probably all the first parties or any second party deals. But you know, you're not going to be able to play games that you can buy on PlayStation. You're not going to,
like, you won't get a
them
Gears
on
of
Games
War,
Pass.
yeah.
You could get I think you would. I think as Games Pass, you'll get Gears of War, you'll get Halo, you'll get, you know, fucking State of Decay, all that sort of shit, because they're all first parties. But like, as an example, This Is the Police, a random game I just pulled out of my ass.
Yeah.
This is the great game, by the way. Fucking fantastic.
Oh yeah, great game. Yeah.
This Is the Police is on Games Pass,
Mhm.
but on this, I presume on this PlayStation version of Games Pass, it won't be there because it's a third-party game that you can buy on the PSN.
Right.
I think there would be some sort of negotiating deal to be like, yes, we'll have if it comes that way, yes, we'll have Games Pass on the thing. However, it must be games that are not purchasable on the PlayStation Store.
Do you think a purchase of Kojima Productions could potentially push that kind of idea on the table for Sony to kind of consider afterwards? Like, if Kojima gets bought out, like, let's just hypothetically, let's just say that Kojima got announced as, like, Kojima Productions is now part of Xbox Game Studios, and all their titles will be available on Game Pass day one, and so is Death Stranding and everything else. It's now available on Game Pass, but his titles will only be exclusive on Game Pass from this point forward. What do you think? What do you think Sony? What do you think PlayStation?
I think that it's a tough sell. PlayStation would be fucking bummed, I guarantee.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine they would have had conversations, especially seeing as how quickly they ran out to grab him and sort of pick him up after he left Konami.
Yeah.
So I do think there is some loyalty with Kojima and the PlayStation brand.
I really don't think there is.
Well, I think there's at least some like friendly kind of like, yeah, nah, I know you helped us out, and maybe the circumstance of, look, if there was that deal, they'd be like, Microsoft offers this, can you do it? And if they can't do it, you know, I think that sort of gentleman's agreement, if that makes sense, rather than a hard agreement. It's just like, hi, we respected each other. You helped me when I needed it. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But the difficulty that Xbox will have, and this might be why there'd be something they'd consider, is Microsoft does not have any remote footing in the Japanese market at all.
But this could be their gateway.
That was my next. Yeah, this could be their one step. Now they have tried in the past. If you look at the 360, there's a lot of JRPGs and a lot of focus on trying to break into that Eastern market, and they saw limited to no success. Hence why most JRPGs are PC and PlayStation games at the moment, because they know that their demographic in Japan is PlayStation, because it's a Japanese brand.
Yeah.
And would this be that kick in the right direction? Potentially. Potentially. You know, I say that knowing that the only way to play currently without, you know, on current gen platforms, the only way to play Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 is through Games Pass.
Yeah.
So there's that. Through backwards compatibility, sorry, not through Games Pass.
No, you're correct. And that's the thing. Like, it's one of those things again where you look at that and go, man, the only way to play Revengeance right now, Game Pass.
Well, yeah, no. So I associate Sons of Liberty, and I associate, you know, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater
with PlayStation,
with PlayStation, with PS2.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh well, I can't play it.
Yeah,
I can play it on backwards compatibility on the Xbox. Like, oh,
yeah. So that, and it's just weird.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. The next one comes by way of Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says Sony to continue investing in Dreams, developer Media Molecule. Sony is really behind what we're doing, he says. This is no surprise. Well, when many PlayStation fans are lacking a business degree believe that Media Molecule's Dreams should be built into the PS5 user experience to ensure more people get to play around with it. And thus generate.
So I laugh because I haven't made that claim specifically, but I did like the idea of them addressing fucking armchair purchasers, armchair business managers. Yeah, like
it was always going to be the case that the complete opposite has been happening behind the scenes. As it turns out, Sony continues to invest in a Little Big Planet creator Media Molecule to help it grow, putting the fears of a future shutdown from hardcore supporters to bed. Revealed in an interview with Kotaku studio director Saibin Reddy, I believe that's how you pronounce it, touched on how the studio is staffing up. Quote, we're on a big recruitment drive right now because to make progress, we need programmers and we need designers. What really excites me about all this is Sony is really behind what we're doing and are investing in the studio to grow, end quote. Yeah, that's cool. I really like the fact that they're continuing support behind Media Molecule. Dreams was great for at its time at launch. I believe it had a really strong launch window, but it kind of fell off. And this is like talking from somebody who's was actually on the commercial, the worldwide commercial. But I supported the game. I thought it was great, but I believe it also had a quick dip. It fell off the face of the earth pretty much instantaneously, and Little Big Planet kind of suffered from that as well. It was popular it during its launch window, and then it just kind of disappeared. And Dreams headed the same way. What are your thoughts?
Dreams was a tough cookie.
Yeah,
like I remember playing it at PAX early on, and I was pretty freaking baffled by its concept, right? Because at its core, it is essentially software, but like production software, not a game.
Yeah.
And at launch, there was a bunch of really cool games from the creator beta that came across, and the issue that we had is you're like, wow, there's great potential here.
Yeah.
But because at launch, there's only potential. Now, I reckon if we were to boot up Dreams now, we would see some of that potential fulfilled.
Oh, yeah.
And we would see a lot of incredible and remarkable games on there.
There is a core fan base there that is still developing games.
Very much so. The problem that we're having is, it is gaming tools. It's
niche.
It's tough to market that. It's a niche. And it's arty-farty. You mean arty-farty doesn't always sell well in the game space.
No.
Fucking shooters and Call of Duties and the easy wins are what sell.
I believe it.
For us, as like the hardcore sort of game, those that see gaming as art and a understanding of the complexities that come with it, and we have that analytical vision or the critique that comes with games. Like we look at this tool and be like, this is fucking awesome. The potential of this is astounding. And it's exactly why many critics reviewed it as like 110 out of 10 or a 9.5 out of 10. Yeah. And the reason being is like, this could be whatever you want it to be. And for the average person, that's like, oh, I have to learn to, I just want to play the games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. Very, very tough.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that Sony are continuing to want to invest in it because, as we said, the full strength of what Dreams is will only escalate over time. Like it is literally an exponential growth. There will come a time where it's as the best it will ever be, and we ain't there yet.
Yeah, I believe its shortcomings is within its pacing, though, for players, not for developers who want to kind of sit back, chill, come up with something creative. For players, you jump in, you want to play a game, but there is that issue that does fall in line of repetition, monotony, tediousness in terms of its tool set. It does kind of take its toll in terms of like just overall time wasting. You could put it that way.
Well, that's because if you are not of that creative mind, and I will admit I am not that individual. I looked at this, I'm like, I love the idea of it. I neither have the skill, time, or patience to deliver a good creation in dreams. It's not for me. I am by far a consumer of games rather than a creator of games. So, and this game essentially locked that in stone for me.
Yeah. Betson, the final story of the night comes by way of Stephen Talby over at Push Square, who says, and I can't believe we're bringing this back up, Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.2 available to download now on PS5 and PS4, and it's 44 gig. I'm not even going to bother reading the patch notes or anything like that. I just want to bring this up.
19 pages long. I'm joking, it's huge.
Yeah. The reason I want to bring this up is because we're still getting patches. And my issue is that it's too late. It really is. I feel like this game is still trying to kind of overcome hurdles that it's put on itself. And it's at its fault. It's at a fault of its own, obviously. We go back and we discuss the crunch and everything else. But the game, before it launched, and how much you wanted it to suck and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, when it came out and it did actually kind of suck, you were like, "Oh man, I really didn't want this to suck."
I wanted CD Projekt Red to be put in their place. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I'm not saying that I'm some fucking psychic, but like, I saw a lot of behaviors in what they were doing that were mimicking those of bigger, publishers that everyone shits on. Like, they were making decisions that were very similar to Activision and EA and Ubisoft, and no one would address them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want CD Projekt Red to be seen for what they actually are.
Yeah.
They aren't this customer-facing, client-facing for the gamer's company. No. And they saw that. And sadly, that means the game had to take a hit to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was like, jokingly, this game's going to be shithouse. Yeah. I didn't expect it to be this shithouse, nor did I want it to be this shithouse.
The fact that there's a 44 gig patch, the size of an entire game, I think 44 gig is actually the size of God of War 2018.
It's literally the half of the install size of this game.
That in itself is pathetic. That's pathetic. A patch that's half a game. I'm sorry, but you
half
can't,
of the game, yeah.
Half of the game. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep putting out these patches that are literally the game rolling out piece by piece, and then come out for next gen version only a couple of months later to kind of satiate that need of a perfect version of Cyberpunk 2077.
Well, I think it's more of meeting the demand and the request. Like, I don't think, it's not about, because they could bail on it now and they would never recover as a company.
But 50% of that market have already returned the game because they've had that opportunity.
Yeah. But like, in terms of their PR is garbage, right?
Oh, yeah.
But at least right now they have the potential. It's not a high potential, but it is still the potential to come out and be like, look, we know it sucked, but we fixed it. We agreed. We promised you that you would get this and this and this and this. It took us way longer than we expected, but we delivered.
Yeah.
Like, right now, look at Anthem. Like, Anthem was shit on delivery. They said they'd fix it, and they were like, nah. And like, not as if the EA needed any more bad press, but BioWare is putting it out there. BioWare it's going to take them a long time to recover from that. Where CDPR, they can at least, if they put their noses to the grindstone in this, I disagree with the notion that they are going to have a No Man's Sky recovery.
Yeah. No.
However, I think they can at least attempt to build some of that trust back by going through what they weren't able to meet their promise here, but they're able to meet it here.
Yeah.
It just took way longer, and it's not entirely what was promised.
Yeah.
The game review.
All right, Betson, thanks to the kind folk over at EA Australia. We both got to sit down and play It Takes Two last week, and I have to say that this was a surprise.
Yeah.
This game was really a surprise. It really caught me off guard how good it really is. I'll start with you. What were your initial thoughts heading in, and how'd you feel about playing it?
So my initial thoughts, having played A No Way Out, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, cool. I kind of have an idea of where he's going and where Joseph Faris and the team at Hazelight have their ideas in mind, like what kind of game they wish to deliver.
Yeah.
However, completely underestimated what this game was.
Yep, same.
Because when it booted up, I'm like, this game's very good looking. and then as we play more, I'm like, this game is incredibly good looking.
Yeah.
And additionally, it is charming and it is full of character and really, really well executed platforming. The game is exceptional.
Yes. Yeah. Very much
Like
so.
now, granted, neither you or I have finished it at this stage. At
Right.
this stage,
Yep.
As we were playing together, we put about 2.5, maybe 3 hours into it. Yeah, so we were able to get through 2 of the first major levels.
Mm-hmm.
But we have not been able to reorganize time to come back together.
No.
Which is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But
That's one of the hurdles that I believe that
we'll discuss.
players,
Once we get past our thoughts, we'll get into that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it completely blew me away in how good it is.
Yeah, same. I really was astonished by how well it kind of even just performed. My concern heading in was, man, I wonder if it's gonna botch. Like, and when I say botch, I mean like online multiplayers are usually hit or miss, and adventure titles that have seamless gameplay at the same time simultaneously
Co-op.
co-op that you play simultaneously side by side, especially split screen. I always am a little concerned. I feel like in me, oh man, I don't know how well this is actually going to play. But then I do remember A Way Out performing quite well. I had no issue with it. But this, I believe, is actually better than A Way Out in terms of the way it performs and the way you play it and its engagement rate. Like in terms of like A Way Out, it's very much that espionage-esque kind of style that they try to pull, and you know, there's only really one way to play A Way Out. With It Takes Two, there are so many facets and features and everything else that you go through. I mean, like there was one point you were fighting a freaking, what was it, a squirrel on a freaking plane.
I was street fightering a squirrel.
It turned from a platformer to a freaking plane simulator to a Street Fighter game. And not only that, simultaneously, I was steering the plane to make sure it stayed level so that you didn't fall off. But you were fighting this squirrel on top of the plane in Street Fighter fashion, like full on. It had the name bars at the top with the health bars as well, and even the animatic the animatic sequences within it, like it showed up KO and everything. I was like, holy shit, this game is incredible in terms of its design.
See, I think that there were some clear advantages in the design path that they took. So by shifting it from the crime drama setup that No Way Out was, because it is based in realism, it's based in reality.
Of course, yeah.
Like for that reason, there are finite things you can do.
Yeah.
Where here with It Takes Two, it is fantastical. Like you can push
boundaries.
The entire premise is that you are essentially voodoo dolls, right? Like this kid made her divorcing parents into toys for them to sort out their differences.
Yeah.
And with that comes silliness. You fight a vacuum. You befriend squirrels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the section we just got into, there's a giant baboon somewhere.
The robot Queen Bee.
The robot Queen Bee, which was hysterical. Like,
fuck yeah.
You know, like there's all these little things that No Way Out simply could not have delivered because of its stylistic
The
choice.
racist book of love.
It's thematic choice. And with that racially ambiguous book, like, is it Spanish? Is it French?
Mexican.
Like they really don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, by being able to take that a little bit of silliness, a little bit of bizarreness, and kind of amping it up because it's all over the top, it really adds. Like if they tried to make some sort of realistic toy character game with because the fact that the squirrels aren't just squirrels, they're sentient.
Yeah.
The fact that the bees aren't bees, they're sentient.
Yeah.
Like those little things, and like they have shields and armors, and like all the squirrels wear hats. and like all these dumb little things that just don't make sense.
The imagination is wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is, and it really kind of expands that creativity that the development studio, and I can't remember the name.
Hazelight.
That's it, Hazelight. Thank you. Really kind of went above and beyond in this. Obviously, Joseph Fares gets most of the credit because he was the one who really pushed it at the Game Awards. But Hazelight,
well, he's the game director, he's the game creator, in the same way that like Kojima and Neil Druckmann, he's just the figurehead.
Correct.
But
Hazelight Studio really did go above and beyond with this, and I got to say that it is one of the most gorgeous games I've played on the PlayStation 5 so far.
I would agree with that.
There were moments, and you brought this up before the players with Max as well. There are moments where you see the textures and the lighting and the way it hits some of the molds and everything else. Like, there were moments where we had to stand like still just to kind of take in everything because it was captivating. It really was. It was very compelling, the world around us at some point.
So like there are moments that whether they really took advantage of the ray tracing potential of the PS5, we saw just how light works on a bunch of different things. As in, with one of the characters being made of clay and one being made of wood, and clay and wood reflect light differently, as does wool and leaves. And so when we're looking at these characters and like just even on a individual item basis on their character, we are seeing how it looks different. And because the game is sharp as hell. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
But the future within graphical fidelity is it's HDR, it's resolution, and it's lighting. And what we're seeing here is this beautiful sort of implementation of ray tracing or ray tracing lighting, as well as these beautiful colors, because into the height of using that HDR to its full advantage. Yeah. We are seeing vibrancy. We are seeing this incredible contrasts. It visually it's fantastic.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like there was a point in the game we scaled a tree. We had to climb a tree. You see the knots in the trees, like the way that the lighting reflects off it. You basically see all the bumps and carves in the tree. We're in when we fall to the floor on the outside, the gravel. The way that the light hits the gravel or the tarmac, I should say, and the textures on that, and the way it reflects as well. I just sat there like, man, there are so many games out there right now that honestly don't do this. They just don't. They really don't put that amount of attention, like to detail, in their games. But this is...
but it's, in terms of the coloring and the whatnot, like this game, taking as we're discussing with the themes of the game, right, in terms of its style, sorry, not its theme, its styling.
Yeah.
Like with its styling, it allows for really bright colors and really vibrancy because it's silly.
Yeah.
And like, where No Way Out used a lot of dark colors, a lot of grays, a lot of, browns because it was gritty intentionally, where here, this is a vibrant game. Yeah. Right. Like, and that comes across.
Yeah. I love some of the puzzles that we really kind of got around as well, utilizing the vacuum cleaners, hoses to kind of maneuver our way around the map. And obviously working together to get around as well.
Yeah, so using a No Way Out again, so No Way Out as an example again, because it is probably the quickest comparison.
A Way Out.
A Way Out, sorry, not No Way Out, A Way Out. That we saw, like there weren't this level of puzzles. No. There was a lot of different communications and sneaking and and hiding and escaping. Yeah. Where here we're seeing straight platforming. Yeah. And once again, it's the nature of being a silly world where you are a toy allows this level of platforming. And as you mentioned, there are these great sort of traversal puzzles using hoses and vacuums and nails and hammers and toolboxes and buzzsaws and like all these really cool little intricate details that allow it to sort of become this really bizarre yet awesome platformer.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And the one thing that I remember, you said it right on the mark as soon as we were viewing a cutscene. Obviously, it really touches on those sensitive pieces as set pieces within the story. Obviously, a child that's kind of suffering the effects around her of a divorce. Between
so it's her dealing with the emotional distress. Of her parents divorcing.
Yeah.
Now, I myself, my parents separated when I was 7 years old. So, like, it's probably a similar age to this child.
Yeah.
Comparatively, like, my desire to have my parents get back together was never as extreme as this girl's. But, you know, like, your parents are still together at the moment. You know, the moment. Your parents, to this day, they're still together. Yeah. So, in terms of that as a theme...
An emotional connection, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a bit tough, probably a bit harder for you to gravitate to understand that a little bit.
Yeah.
Not saying that you're at a disadvantage, because that's fantastic, but
it's just you get a semblance of understanding in terms of emotional impact in a resonant, you know.
Yeah, and on top of that, as well as, once again, no disrespect to you, like I'm also married and I have a son. So, like, this hits me in a number of different ways.
Of course.
The idea of these two parents sort of, you know, bickering, and not saying my wife and I bicker, because my wife's...
But that's just healthy marriage.
Yeah, it's just I mean, like some of the things that they are discussing, it's kind of like, it made me almost reflective towards my marriage, actually.
Yeah.
You know, because there's these weird discussions around, you know, with the mother in this, you know, overworking and not being there and missing things, where the dad is quite laid back, and for that he's probably a bit blasé, and things are not getting done, or you know, things are being missed. You know, so it's like, either someone's not there or one's not there enough, and there's different things. And like, when you come to realize, mild spoilers by the way, that there is like this, you're essentially in a waking coma for the parents are they're in a waking coma.
This is zombies.
They're zombies. Their essences are in these toys. So there are moments where, like, the daughter walks in to talk to the mother and says, you know, hey mom, I was wondering if you wanted to play. Oh, you're lying on the couch.
I got that headache again.
Do you have one of those headaches again? Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I'll come back. Which to me implies that this isn't the first time, like, not that she's the first time she's ever been in a toy, but I mean, like, they're setting up these parameters that's showing that there is a clear level of disconnect between the parents and the child.
Yeah.
And even when she goes to the dad who's sitting at his computer or whatever, and he's like, hey, okay, you're at your computer, no worries. You know, and it's just like, how they're not neglecting this child, but it's just like they're kind of stuck in their own world.
Yeah,
and that, to me, was heartbreaking. And the way the game captured that. And although we haven't seen the back end of this game or where this story progresses, you know, where we're at right now, the objective is horrifying.
Yeah. So it really is one of those games that has that contrast in it. There is a really, really depressing story that attaches itself to a comical theme. And I believe that is to kind of break the ice a little bit, but we don't know what to expect at the end of it. It is really... It's concerning more than anything, because I'm kind of worried that it would get to the end. Oh, the parents split up anyway. It's like, fuck. Oh, fuck, this kid's going to be heartbroken.
Some things are inevitable.
That's right. So it's inevitability that really plays out. It's destiny in some ways. So I'm really excited to play through with it, and obviously I'm going to be playing more. Well,
yeah, to add the thing, because one of our biggest grievances with the game would be, because the game is playable entirely and only in co-op.
Yeah.
You know, you and I, if you and I were to continue it, which would be the plan.
Yeah. We have to make time.
We got to make time, and it's hard. We both have very busy schedules.
Yeah.
So the idea is fantastic, and I think it's unique, and I think it's marvelous for that exact reason. However, that's the hard part.
That's the hurdle.
It's the hurdle. You've got to be committed to someone, and in order to make that happen. So, you know, like, apologies to EA and it was All Interactive who provided the code for yourself and myself to ride your coattails on. Yeah, we apologize for not being able to review the game for this review. Like, complete the game for this review. Sorry, yeah. But yeah, it's the nature of the beast. But, like, we will continue. And
I mean, look, we got enough out of it that we were able to talk about it for a good 10 minutes. That's the thing. Like, there is so much more.
There's so much more that we can only see and experience in this game. Like, the groundwork of what this game is delivering is fantastic. And because, you know, Max picked it in his draft, because I had a feeling the game was going to be good, but I let him take it. I'm like, oh, well, okay, I'll let him take it.
I'm glad I did.
it's sitting here at 90, and it is well deserving of that score.
I agree with you. So once again, thank you to EA Australia for kindly provided the review code for myself and Ryan.
The game review.
All right, Betson, let's talk a little bit about Doom Eternal, the Ancient Gods Part 2 DLC that dropped thanks to the kind folk over at Bethesda who provided the review code yonks ago to the Pop Culturist and to Dash Gamer respectively. Betson, how much of it have you played?
So what I'm doing right now is I'm playing both DLC 1 and 2.
Yep.
So I waited for knowing that it was a two-parter, I was like, I'm going to wait. I'm just going to put them together at the same time.
Yep.
Because I imagine there is some sort of connective tissue between the two of them.
Yep.
Cool. So so I wrapped credits on part 1, and then I'm probably an hour and a half-ish into 2. I say that in terms of story delivery of an hour and a half. I've put noticeably more time into it than that because the game is kicking the living fuck out of me.
Yeah. So I've completed 1 and 2. I completed 2 last night. The review is now live on Dash Gamer. Yeah, and the difficulty is just as insane as it was in part 1.
Yeah, like I say that in the idea, like because I played the base game on medium. And I completed it, and without any major issue, and I was able to get credits on it with that medium, right? However, I think because it has been literally a year since that game came out, and like all my muscle memory, all my skill has gone, and I do think that is the one downside of games that have releasing DLC for extended period of time post game release. Like I have played so many other games since Doom Eternal. I'm like, well, I literally forgot, like, how do I play this again? Because like the 2 Doom Eternals a credit because I praised it upon review was that I loved its little like rock paper scissors sort of setup, and the idea that like there are certain enemies and they have certain weaknesses to certain ammo types, but when you jump back into the DLC, it don't tell you.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, like what like the guys that like giant brain crabs, they have a big gun on above their head. What do they do? Grenade or the rifle. All right, cool. And I only learned that by mild trial and error.
Yeah.
You know, and you know the DLC allegedly takes like the first DLC takes like 5 hours to complete.
Yeah.
The part 1 at least.
Yeah.
I think it took me like 12 just because I died constantly. I felt like it was about 12. I don't know whether it was or not.
Yeah.
And apparently part 2 is about 3.5
3 hours
as well. And I was like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Let's get my head caved in.
Yeah.
But from a story perspective, though, what do you think?
I thought it was okay. The follow-up to part 1, I think it's well structured, better structured than it was in part 1. I believe it's a better follow-up, or a better narrative flow than it was in part 1. I think that it kind of there's a little bit more clarity in terms of why certain events happen in part 1, and then we do follow up in part 2. I still think that it could have been a little better in terms of its narrative, but its gameplay experience just kind of supersedes it. Like, it kind of just turns around and goes, hey, there's a narrative here. Fuck the narrative. You're here to die.
Well, yeah, very much so. Like, the narrative of Doom Eternal is there, and it did push the story along, the gameplay along, because it is Doom as a design is a gameplay-driven setup.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, here like this, there is some great things because at the end of Doom Eternal, you're like, fuck yeah, everything's wrecked. And here it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We want to remove it's mild spoilers, everyone. For Ancient Gods Part 1. There is, we want to remove the demon infestation on Earth.
Right.
And how are we going to do that? We need to summon either the All-Father or the Dark Lord and sort it out.
Yeah.
So and they're like, oh, let's get the All-Father. Fuck that noise. Let's get the Dark Lord.
The Dark Lord, yeah.
Yeah, and then we come to learn the Dark Lord gets at the end of it. He needs to have a physical form. He gets the physical form at the end of part 1, and part 2 is all about you getting to him and doing it to take him out.
Yep.
And that itself has been a great narrative for me because like having demons and all that sort of stuff, and when you have like the Makers, which are essentially the angels in the Doom Eternal universe, is really cool.
Yeah.
But that idea of whenever you discuss angels and demons, you have to take into account the higher powers. You have to take into the idea of a god or some sort of almighty and a dark lord or a dark figure. And I really like that as a point of narrative in this game.
do too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think obviously the one thing that pushed it to being a 9. My written review is now live. I gave it a 9. I think the one thing that really gave the reason I rated it so highly was because gameplay, the way that they've kind of...
Oh, it's impeccable. Yeah.
Yeah, the way they've ironed it out in part 2 as well is tremendous. I love also the new sensible hammer as well. It gives you the ability to kind of just stun the alien and give you that opportunity to kill him off. My gripe are the shriekers. The shriekers are fucking just there to be assholes. You kill one, and then it gives like this buffer to all the enemies, including some of the larger enemies, the mammoths around them. That gives it that buffer that makes it much more difficult to annihilate them. But yeah, look, I think if anything, the Ancient Gods Part 2 is imperative for, like, it's a compulsory piece of
Very
DLC for Doom Eternal owners, and I highly, highly suggest that anybody out there who owns Doom Eternal right now on PlayStation 5, Xbox, no doubt Xbox, and PC, that you go ahead and pick it up. So once again,
go through. You are going to hit your head against that wall for a little while if you haven't played Doom Eternal. But I'm in now that the loop is starting to fall back into place. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm feeling it. I'm looking, you can see where as you come into those encounters, you're like, all right, let's fucking party. Let's get ready to go. And yeah, and with the introduction of all these new demons and new enemies, and like obviously with that hammer as well, which is this great way to sort of added a nice stunning AoE attack, because with these introduction of these new demons, you are swarmed constantly, and if you happen to not move in time, you're trapped and you're rooted. That hammer can clear the way so you can get out. Like one of the things I discussed for the players, and I'll mention here as well, is what I loved about, and what I still love about Doom Eternal's design, is that it is not arbitrarily hard.
Yeah.
They give you all the tools that you need to achieve in that encounter. Mm-hmm. You just need to know how to use them.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, like, you can't say, oh, there's not enough health. Glory kills. Yeah. Oh, there's not enough ammo. Chainsaw. Oh, there's not enough shield. Your flame belch. Yeah. They have given you every possible avenue you need to succeed.
Your arsenal's unlimited. It's boundless.
Yeah, you just got to get better. Yeah. And you just got to practice, and you just got to keep moving and keep trying. And like, unlike Dark Souls, where there are times you can just get stabbed through a wall and it's like, fuck you. Like, this Doom Eternal delivers that's like a good intensity, a good level of difficulty, a good level of challenge, but also not an unfair challenge. Yeah. And even the introduction of these new demons have increased that level of difficulty, but the game is just as easily accessible and learnable and understandable, and it's just added extra layers to an already awesome base game.
I agree. Once again, thanks to the kind folk over at Bethesda for providing the review code to both the Popculturist and DashGamer.com.
Because there's more Doom music too, and I'm a fucking sucker for Doom music. Oh, so good.
Global gaming releases.
All right, Betson, let's wrap up the show with the DashGamer.com global gaming releases for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go through them as quick as possible because we're way over time tonight. So, Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix, Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, Narita Boy, and Disco Elysium, the final cut for international.
Not for you.
All available on PC. Then for Disco Elysium and Narita Boy, PS4, Xbox One, and just for Disco Elysium, PS5 and Stadia, March 30th. Outriders, PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Stadia,
everything.
April 1st. Star Wars, Republic Commando, PS4 and Switch, April 6th. Oddworld Soulstorm, PC, PS4, PS5, April 6th. Screw Lawn Landing. Lost Worlds Beyond the Page, PC, PS4, Xbox One and Switch. Padge is just rolling his eyes like, fuck Dash. April 6th. Before Your Eyes on PC, April 8th. Cozy Grove, PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, April 8th. Say No More, PC, Switch, iOS, April 9th. Forgotten Fields, PC, April 14th. Ashwalkers, PC, April 15th. Godstrike PC Switch, April 15th. Shadow Man Remastered on PC, April 15th. And Saga Frontier Remastered PC, PS4, Switch, iOS, and Android, April 15th. Guys, if you didn't know, this has been the Dash Gamer Podcast. A bi-weekly gaming podcast where we get together with the boys and talk about the latest in the world of video games. You can follow Mr. Ryan Betson on Twitter at HaggardMC. You can follow myself on Twitter at DashGamer. Don't forget to follow the show over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also, catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell. Give us a like, leave us a comment. It surely helps us out. Betson, a really good show tonight.
Yeah, man, I got a rant. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. And obviously a lengthy one, but I hope you guys all enjoyed it. We'll be back in another 2 weeks. I'll be here with Mr. Drew Agnew. I'll be back next week on Operation PlayStation with Padge. But until then, don't forget to stay safe, take care of each other, and wash them hands. And for Brisbane, wear your masks.
Wear them masks.
Yeah, please.
dashgamer.com